Good evening and welcome to the September 7th workshop meeting. Mr. Gooding, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Pickle Antonio?
Here.
Mrs. Mooring?
Here.
Mrs. Coates?
Here.
Mrs. Horn?
Here.
Mr. Manley?
Here.
And if you'll all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we get started, I just want to note we had a really incredible special day in the district today. One of our high school teachers, Mr. Mark Lowry, received the award of Ohio Teacher of the Year this afternoon, and that was really exciting. I know lots of us were there and able to participate in the excitement, but just wanted to extend an additional congratulations to Mr. Lowry on that award. I think it comes with a year of service on behalf of Mr. Lowry, engaging in speaking engagements, representing the district on behalf of public education. So we are very proud of him and excited about the award. Are there any recommended changes to tonight's agenda?
There are none.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Thanks, Mrs. Coates. Is there a second? Thanks, Mr. Manley. Any discussion? Mr. Gooding, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mrs. Mooring?
Yes.
Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickle Antonio?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We are on letter C, which is items from our assistant superintendent. So I will turn it over, I think, to you, Mrs. Elliott. Right? Thanks.
Thank you so much. We have two items on the agenda before you this evening. One is an overnight trip for our cross-country teams traveling to Mason. And the second is a contracted service provider contract with I Am Boundless that will be funded through the Stronger Connections grant and will provide some social work support within the district, specifically for our Claw Academy and then other various needs throughout the district.
Elliott, I'm just realizing what I don't see is a motion for approval.
They're not on here as a consent, so we could just vote on each one of them
Individually?
I
Okay.
think that's how I'm seeing it here.
Okay, that works. So we will take each item individually. Is there a motion to approve item C1, which is a recommendation for overnight field trips for the 23-24 school year? This looks like it's cross-country, boys and girls teams. Thank you, Mrs. Horn. Is there a second? I'll second. Thank you, Mrs. Coates. Any additional discussion about the overnight field trips for cross-country teams? Okay, Mr. Gooding, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickle Antonio?
Yes.
Mrs. Mooring?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then is there a motion to approve agreement with I Am Boundless Incorporated?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Mooring. Any additional discussion about approval of that contract?
Thing.
Sure.
How was on the 5th, the first day? Just want to hear how it went. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a successful week. Still working through a few things with placements and programming, technology, but overall a very successful week. Had a chance to speak with one of the teachers supporting that program. Super thrilled and excited. So lots of good things coming.
Anything else? Okay, Mr. Gooding, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickle Antonio?
Yes.
Mrs. Mooring?
Yes.
Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We are on our director reports, and we are going to start with communications. Mr. Starkey.
I wanted to talk about something exciting that excited that we're bringing to the district. It's our Staff Recognition Award. And so I think we've talked in bits and pieces about it previously, but I wanted to sort of illuminate the entire program and what that's going to look like moving forward. So it is the Heart and Pride Award, which is on brand with all of our shirts and sort of our overall staff theme. And so it really is a monthly award for 2 staff members who exemplify what it means to be a GJPS staff member, regardless of position. And it's just those staff members who really make a profound impact on students, on the district, in their own way. And so, although it's earned once in a career, it's not necessarily a lifetime or career achievement award. So it's not like you've been here for 50 years, you get the award. It's more of a effort award, is the way I would term it that way. And it's just to recognize those who showcase the heart of a lion and the power of the pride. So looking at it in specifics, starting with staff, we're planning on next week releasing sort of the nomination form to our staff. And then shortly after that, it will go to all of our community. Anybody can nominate any of our staff members, their fellow colleagues, parents, students, board members, random community members who may have seen something at a sporting event or something. So anybody can nominate any of our staff members. Once those nominations are in, it'll be a rolling nomination, but each month there will be a cutoff for the next month's awards. And so we'll get the first month's nominations in, reduce those to 6 or 7 just to make it manageable for our Heart and Pride Committee. And that committee, we're still firming up who's exactly on the committee, but it's going to be a mix of retired staff members because they have been there. They know what these nominations mean, and it'll make they have an inside look at what those nominations mean. And then some of our community members. So it'll be a group of probably around 10 people that will nominate, or that will read through the 6 to 7 people's nominations for that month. Then they will rank those nominees. The top 2 will be the winners for the following month. And then we will bring them to a board meeting to be recognized by you all. And so we are working with our Fab Lab students to create an award that will be presented to them. We want it to be an impressive award because it is a once-in-a-lifetime award that you're receiving from the district. So we're working with those students to find something that embodies the award, but also something that they can make in large quantities because we're going to be having 2 a month for, I think it comes out to 7 months out of the year. So we want something that's easy for them to produce in mass and just add names and things like that. So we're excited for this. We know that it's going to be new. And so with that, we're going to have a lot of nominations come in the first month. We know that just because it's new and everybody wants to celebrate what may have happened to them 10 years ago. So for the first couple months, we know it's going to be a big lift just to get through all those nominations and really sift through those. But once we get it rolling and it turns into more of the culture of a colleague in the middle of February nominating a fellow colleague, once it becomes part of that culture, that's sort of the longevity of the program. So we're excited to get to that point, but we're certainly excited to get the ball rolling here. We are anticipating you welcoming our first Heart and Pride Award winners at the October board meeting. So they'll be at the board meetings, the second meeting of the month. So any questions on this program?
Very excited about it. It sounds amazing. And I love that we're going to have that kind of recognition for the staff. 2 questions. And I think you said it's like a rolling, so like if they didn't get the award for October, those names would roll into like November. Okay, want to make sure I heard it right. And then is there a rubric that the like evaluation committee is going to follow to assess like who they are making the decision? We'll get it.
Not that we've talked about, but that's a good question. And it's something that we can certainly investigate. Based on the survey or the nomination form that we're sort of putting together, it's more of a open narrative. And so it's something that we may look at in terms of a scoring rubric versus just a rating or a ranking system. So that's something we can definitely look into.
Mrs. Mooring?
Are they going to be featured on our website?
Of course.
Good.
I'll put anything on the website, you know that. Yeah, and so, and I think we've talked about our newsletters previously, moving them to monthly, and so we're looking at doing the Friday after every month's board meeting so that we can celebrate them in the newsletters the following day with their pictures here, with their awards. So that was something that we talked about in conjunction with the award. So yes, website, and they'll go out in the newsletter.
Stanley?
Just a comment. I think it's awesome that the students are working on creating the award, and I just love the idea of them taking ownership and being a part of, and the pride that they're going to feel as well. So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Turkey? I think we're on Human Resources. Mrs. Reed?
Good evening, President Piccolantonio, members of the board. Thank you for having me this evening. Have a couple of quick updates from the HR department for you. So first of all, I want to welcome the 50 aspiring teachers that we are hosting in our district this fall as either observation students, field placements, or student teachers. I wanted to give you a little bit of data about the students that we have visiting with us. So we currently, again, have 50 students in the district. There are 22 students who are participating in field placements, which is somewhere between 20 and 75 hours in a classroom, depending on the program. We have 2 students who are participating in internships. One's a counseling intern, the other is a school psychology intern. We have 12 observation students, and then we have 14 student teachers. So we are very excited to have them in the district. To give you a sense for where these students are coming from, we are hosting students from multiple universities, including Capital, Franklin, Grand Canyon, Lake Erie College, Mount Vernon Nazarene, Ohio Dominican, Ohio State, Otterbein, the University of Cincinnati, and Western Governors University. So a very diverse group of students that are joining us. A huge shout out to our host teachers. We obviously could not be working with this many aspiring teachers without our host teachers. So just want to recognize that we do have students in almost all of our buildings. We have 2 host teachers at Blacklick. We have 5 at Chapel Field, 9 at Goshen Lane, 2 at High Point, 2 at Jefferson, 3 at Lincoln Elementary, 6 at the high school, 3 at Middle School East, 3 at Middle School South, 2 at Middle School West, and 9 at Royal Manor. So lots of teachers who are working really hard to help those students be the best that they can be when they join classrooms. We actually already have 1 student teacher who is going to be graduating in December, who's going to be joining our staff as an intervention specialist substitute for the second half of the year. So we're really excited about that, and hopefully we'll have some more decide to join us as well. And then finally, one of the things that the HR office is hoping to do is we're going to plan some district information nights for all of the students to be welcome to come to hear about the district and the different opportunities that we have for them for employment after they graduate. And then we'll certainly be offering interviews to anyone who's student teaching for upcoming positions for the following school year. So we're really excited about that and want to welcome them all to the district. My second update is just a quick update about the UKG implementation. I told you a little bit about that the last time I was here. So we are proud to say that the HR team has finished their discovery with UKG, and UKG is building the system right now. So next week on Monday, we're going to be doing the HR system build review. So that's the time when we'll get our first glance at the system to see how UKG has put all of that information that we gathered for them into the system and how it's working. So there will be a little bit of back and forth between their developers and us in terms of tweaks to the system and how we might want to change some things, and it might need to work a little bit differently, but we're really excited for our first look at how the system is going to be coming up and running. We'll then be doing the performance part of the system on Thursday, so 2 meetings next week to start to view how this is all coming together. After that, we will then start participating in what they call testing workshops. So that's, again, more time for our team to learn about the system, figure out if it's working appropriately for us, make sure everything's set up just the way that we want it to be, and then also developing a plan for implementation and training across the district. So we're getting really excited about this. Once we get through those stages, we'll then pick our go live date, which again is not necessarily go live for the district. We'll be doing some smaller testing with certain employees so that we can make sure that everything's working properly before we send it out to the district. But we're really, really anxious and excited for this to get started. So appreciate your support with that.
I had a question, but does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Mrs. Horn.
I think it's great the number of student teachers or, whoever is observing, and having the district nights and giving them as much information is a very good choice, and I think being very proactive. So I applaud you for taking that approach. I think that's great.
Thanks.
I guess to that point, I was just curious, how does what you're doing this year compare to what you've done in the past?
So the district nights are going to be new for us. We did, last year, Mr. Kunkel and I did gather the names of the student teachers and reached out to them to offer for them to come in to talk to us, but that didn't really pan out. So we're hoping, again, just having that set time when we can say, we'll talk with you, we'll give you the information, and then also be able to set up those interviews with them at that time, I think might work a little bit better. So we'll see how that goes.
How about numbers-wise? Is this
So
more
Tia might have to help me
students,
with that.
about
Tia
the
was doing the
same?
university students before, so it looks like about the same as,
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thanks,
All right,
Mrs. Reed.
Thank you.
Next, we've got curriculum. Ms. Holloman.
Don't touch this. I was going to pull it out, but I remember. Good evening, members of the board. Lost my voice a little bit at the game on Friday, so it was fantastic. So it's a little scratchy, so excuse that. Very early in the school year, so just have a few updates to share with you. First, we had our first implementation of School Links. That happened at the first homeroom at the high school on August 23rd. And so just as a reminder, School Links is our new platform for college and career exploration and research, replacing Naviance. What we have put together, myself and the counselors and the admin team, is an implementation plan that has monthly activities built into the homerooms where students are engaging in those activities. And so I just kind of wanted to give you a quick rundown of the numbers. So as of yesterday, September 6th, we had total logins of 2,549, with that being 1,957 unique student logins. So it's about 75% of the population. We had the breakdown, 71% of our freshmen have completed the onboarding process, 80% of sophomores, 67% of juniors, and 64% of seniors. And right now, those numbers are a little lower because of students that maybe have CCP for the first couple of periods of the day, or if they have late arrival. And so as the year goes on, we know those numbers will increase, especially on the senior side, because there's so much of their senior activities that are incorporated into School Links. We have the Find Your Path assessment, which is, it's a quick assessment that students take to kind of answer questions about their personalities. And what it produces is like suggested career clusters, and just gives them a summary of their personality traits, and also kind of matches them with celebrities that have those similar traits. So we had 1,676 students, 1,767 students that have completed that. And from that information, the top clusters we had were the arts, audiovisual, technology, and communications, and the second cluster was health science. Excuse me. And then under the career and college focus, we had 1,795 students set a career goal. And the top career selected was psychology, with physical therapy being the second highest. And right now, we only have 127 students that have set a post-secondary goal. But again, as I mentioned, through the implementation plan, there will be different tasks that they will be asked to complete we'll start to see some increase in that numbers. I wanted to share those numbers because one of the biggest difference that we noticed between Navient and School Links is before, students would take those interest surveys and things and we wouldn't be able to see the data. Now we can actually see it and then use it to have conversations, more conversations with students, and also like planning for programming and things. So also wanted to let you know we are still in the process, as this is still the beginning, uploading our data into School Links. That includes the guardian information, and so as soon as we get that in there, information will be sent out to families about how to access the platform as well. I'm still working with technology to get that information in. So please just give me some patience on that, but we'll definitely get some information. The reason why we went ahead though and moved forward with the students is because, again, pretty much all of the senior activities are built into School Links, so their Common App, their transcript requests, their teacher recommendations. So getting the seniors in early was important, and so we just started from the beginning. But more information will definitely be coming for families on how they can access it as well. Another update that we have is we're preparing for the Washington, D.C. trip in 2024. And so on Tuesday night, we had the parent meeting for that. And there were roughly 155 people that attended that meeting. And registration is now open, and families are encouraged, to register by the end of October, just to ensure that their spot is available for them. The last update that I have, again, we presented on our adoption of Bridges Number Corner and Bridges Core. So as of September 1st, we've started our first workouts with Bridges Number Corner in the elementaries. Sharon has Mrs. Suriano has tons of pictures from teachers of the number corner set up in their classroom and the resources and things like that. And as time goes on, I'll be able to share more updates and feedback of that implementation, but everybody definitely went into it very excited. So we are now day 4 into our number corner implementation, and excited to see where we go with that. That's all I have. Any questions?
I have a question, but does anybody else? Sorry, you happen to hit on 2 things. I've got a senior and an 8th grader.
Yes.
So my question is specifically not about my kids.
Yes.
Let me just make that clear. It's just you were talking about things that are familiar, just to be clear. For seniors specifically, I guess my question is, since now is the time that they are needing to rely on the platform to do their college applications, specifically, I think they have to use it to request letters of recommendation. Yes. And also, there are a lot of seniors who have late arrival. I guess, what is the plan to help bridge that so that, I heard the percentage was in the 60s. I'm just.
Yep, that's a great question. And I did thank you for asking that question, because I did not include that. We actually, the counselors have individual senior meetings that they are now starting to work through, and they will then get the students in. So some of the students that were here have already started to engage, and it's fun to see, because I have when I log in, there's kind of a tracker that I can see students have searched for a college or submitted an application. So that part is fun. But during those senior meetings, individual senior meetings, is when they'll jump in, get them through the onboarding, and then help them to navigate the process.
I appreciate you explaining that. I mean, I kind of, just like I said, I kind of knew that just from experiencing it on the other side. Yes. But go ahead, Mrs. Coates.
Eastland Fairfield, you mentioned like the homeroom, and so since they are like those that aren't on site, that are traveling, how do they then get that messaging and connected in the activities?
Yes, so we have 2 counselors that are dedicated to our students that are at the Career Center, and they also visit the Career Center once a month and meet specifically with our students there, and so they'll go through the same process with them as well. And as I had mentioned, once we get the communication out to the families, then that will be another layer of it also. So, and one other thing that I wanted to add, so as I mentioned, the counselors are starting to have their individual senior meetings now to get them familiar with the platform and make sure that they understand all of the things that they have to submit and how to submit and those kinds of things. They also then later in the year have group meetings with the juniors so that they are also more familiar. So we'll continue to have those activities monthly during the homerooms and pushing out information to families and to students, but then also there are different points within the year that they have those either small groups or individual meetings with particular grades that we know need to engage for different reasons.
Great. It did seem like the senior meetings were earlier this year, which is great, given that it is a whole different process.
Correct.
And that's good to hear with the juniors too, that there are those planned meetings. So you can see on the back end the percentage of students who've engaged. So is there like a date that you're looking to see that I don't know the answer to this question, but do all students need to at some point engage with the platform regardless of what the plan is for
That is
them
the goal.
after graduation?
Yes, that is the goal for two reasons. One, it is also a platform for us to track graduation requirements, and students can track them and we can track them all in one place. It helps us with that career and college research and readiness and helping students to kind of understand their skills and their interests. And then also it gives us an opportunity for that alumni collection once they do graduate, which is now an additional layer where we have to kind of report on how our students are doing once they graduate from us. Then we have to report it back to see if we prepared them for life after high school. And School Links, basically, once they have an account, they have it for life. And so getting that set up by the time that they graduate so that we still have that communication piece with them is important.
I guess that's my question. What is what's the timing that
Yeah.
you'll look to see that it's at 100%, or is there something that you will do if it's not at 100% by
Yeah.
X date?
Yeah,
Or
so
seniors?
right now we have it through the end of the year, so we'll be looking at those months in the spring to see if we need to do an additional push. But we're hoping that, again, those intentional activities and lessons that are built into the homerooms time will help us to get those numbers as close to 100% as possible.
Thanks, Ms. Holloman. Next, we've got technology, Mr. Blackwell.
Good evening, President Piccolantonio and members of the board. Today I just have a few very quick updates about some of the work we've been doing in the tech department as we start the school year. Last meeting I mentioned that we were setting up the new Lincoln Live computer lab with new computers and a new login system, and that's been working great. They were able to complete their first broadcast successfully and stream their first show of the year, including their live shot from the new stadium, which is awesome. And they were able to do that live shot because we established fiber optic connections from the current high school to the new stadium, and we provide connectivity to both press boxes as well as the visitors' concession building, which allowed our band boosters to sell food using their electronic point of sale square systems. And that worked well. I had the marching taco and hot dog myself. And those connections also let them do things like download music in the press box, and we have phones out there for emergencies as well. And the classroom technology setups have been going well as well. also been going well with our new TVs and new computers we have hooked to those new TVs. And we often measure the success of a project like that based on the lack of problems or the lack of complaints or the lack of help desk tickets. But in one of our classrooms, we got a much better form of feedback. One of our technicians was in an elementary reading room with a teacher and a student, and the student was completing an activity on one of those new touch panels. And the student said, "This is going to help me a lot." And it's always very nice to hear feedback like that and see the impact we have. And now that the school year has started, we're still very busy with the day-to-day work, but we're starting to shift our focus onto some more infrastructure and district-wide projects such as Wi-Fi replacement and working on getting quotes together for the security camera grant. And that's all I have for now. Any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead, Mrs. Coates.
Not a question, but a comment. When I was at the reception today and walked into the TV studio, I just have to let you know, like 3 students right away are like, look at all of our new monitors. They were so excited. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Anything else for Mr. Blackwell? Yep, thank you. And then last, special education, Ms. Wigging is not, I think Mrs. Elliott is going to give that update for us.
Good evening. As you mentioned, Sue was not able to be here today, so she sent me with a quick update for you all. The Special Education Department is excited to share about a new peer mentoring and collaboration project that started this year at Lincoln High School. Jill Long from our ESS unit, Intervention Specialist, is taking the lead on that project. It is fully funded by an anonymous donor, so that is a blessing for our students. In February of last year, we had 13 middle school and high school teachers attend full-day training related to recruiting and fostering and supporting this mentorship program. And then this year, on August 16th, there were 19 high school students that spent time, 3 hours actually, volunteering and engaging in training related to serving as peer collaborators. In the future, there will be opportunity worked in for those peer mentors to earn service hours and also elective credit towards graduation. So a great opportunity for our students serving in that role. During the training, the students learned how to support others with academic challenges and to assist them with navigating social situations. The program is designed to support students with academic, social, and equity needs, but also enhances the lives of the students serving as peer mentors, for sure. The program is called Building the Foundation for Authentic Relationships and an Equitable Learning Environment, and the goals address improving school climate, supporting student learning, building authentic relationships, discouraging bullying, and assisting in career readiness. There's research related to mentoring programs, and while it's limited, it does lead to positive outcomes for attitude and academic improvement, decline in dropout rate, as well as progress in self-esteem, self-control, and problem solving. So some of the partnerships have already begun this year, not all of them. It is intended to be a one-to-one program. So essentially this year the goal is to get to 19 students being mentored in this program, and then currently working with ESS students, but eventually branching out beyond to other students that have similar needs. And that's the report for this evening.
Acronym for that. Is there?
Not
No.
included in the report. Sure. Building the foundation for authentic relationships and an equitable learning environment. You're welcome.
Any questions for Mrs. Elliott? Go ahead, Mr. Manley. Oh, did you say no?
Just a comment.
Oh.
That mentor program is really inspiring. It makes me think of the preschool, but just really creative and inspiring. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks to the donor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Elliott. And I think that is it for this evening. Yes? Is there a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to go
We're all
home?
in shock.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Coates. Any discussion? Mr. Gooding, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Manley? Yes. Mrs. Piccolantonio?
Yes.
Mrs. Mooring?
Yes.
Mrs. Coates?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Motion carried.
It is 7:12, and we are adjourned.